let's do a mind-bending exercise right now. I wonder if you can imagine in your mind's eye the last grocery store you went to, just like the front entrance that you walked through. Got it? Now, what you currently see is not really the entrance of the grocery store in real time. It's just a shortcut that your mind has for that store entry. Notice if you see it in color or black and white. And if it's in color, maybe you can switch it to black and white. And if it's in black and white, maybe you can switch it to color. Isn't that interesting? Now let's shift it to a slightly different exercise. I wonder if you can picture yourself in your mind's eye. It's not really you, of course, but it's how your brain stores a shortcut of yourself. Now, if and only if you would like to explore this a little more, let's continue along. Is it in color or black and white? What are the details that you see? Is it your face, kind of like a portrait of a head and shoulders? Is it your whole body? And the key element is, what are the emotions towards that self-image? Are they desirable emotions, undesirable emotions, a mix of both? My wish for you and everyone is that these emotions attached to your self-image are so amazing. But if they are not, fear none, because there are several ways in which you can upgrade that self-image and the way it feels. What I find fascinating is that each of us has an internal self-image that has nothing to do with the way we physically appear. That self-image carries information that indicates how we were programmed to feel about ourselves from childhood. Now, this could be bad news because these programs can be less than helpful many times. For example, they can stop us from pursuing what we want unapologetically. They can dim our internal fire to achieve our goals and to burst through obstacles. And lastly, and most importantly, they can produce bad vocal habits, making us sound small, inconfident, and unsure of ourselves when it matters the most. But on the other hand, the good news is, these programs can be easily upgraded to be more helpful, so that you feel totally worthy and meant to achieve each one of your goals, and have a relentless drive to live the way you really want to live. Subsequently, have this authenticity and conviction in your voice and the way you naturally speak. Today I want to share a powerful story from a recent session I had with a client who had a core self-limiting belief that he was, well, bad. And how with specific life coaching techniques, we were able to completely transform that image, that self-image of bad, into something way more resourceful. You may realize an increased awareness of your own current self-image simply by listening to his story. But before we begin, if this is your first time here, I'm your favorite inhibited voice recovery coach, Hossein. I help people go from socially anxious to socially confident through healing their voice physically and psychologically at the root cause. This is something that I've struggled with for over 2 decades, and I finally learned and discovered sustainable ways to overcome it. And now I'm sharing it with so many people. So if that sounds like a good deal, please hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Join my free mini course, link in the description, to learn the foundations for a healthy voice. And with that, let's dive in. Our minds are like supercomputers, storing and organizing information in incredibly unique ways. During the session with my client, we essentially double-clicked on his internal representation of his self-image, that folder of his self-image, and what we found was astonishing. Inside his mind, this belief was symbolized by a mirror, reflecting a younger version of himself. But this reflection wasn't just a typical childhood image of his face. It was distorted, almost deformed version of his younger face, ugly and completely unlike the handsome, good-looking individual he actually is, accompanied by emotions and thoughts of shame, fear of punishment or lash out, and approval seeking in order to feel safe and accepted. This distorted self-image had been holding him back his entire adult life, compromising his confidence with women and in excelling in his career, keeping in mind that he's kind of a genius in what he does, and he's an extremely hard worker. The impact of this compromised confidence ultimately stifled his voice and his style of speaking, which kept him from expressing himself spontaneously and truthfully. It became like a vicious cycle. The more compromised his confidence is, the more stifled his voice is. And the more stifled his voice is, the more compromised his self-confidence is. And that is why the most sustainable solution is to target the voice physically and release the tension that has been built up over the years, and go in the psychological world and upgrade the self-image and all the memories that created this compromised confidence. So, to address this, we used a powerful NLP technique known as the belief change process. This technique is designed to not only neutralize the limiting belief that already exists or the limiting self-image that already exists, but also to install a new empowering belief, a new empowering self-image to replace it. Through this process, we were able to shift his internal self-image from one of being undesirable to one that reflects his true innate worth, his true innate value that he brings just by his mere presence. By the completion of this transformation, his brain is now operating on new neural pathways, a new software, so to speak, fundamentally altering how he sees himself, his self-esteem, and how he interacts and speaks with others moving forward. Instead of operating from a state of hesitation and unworthiness, now it's confidence and comfortability. If as you're listening to this story, you realize you actually would like to upgrade that self-image that you have of yourself in your mind's eye, I invite you to first observe it with no judgment. Don't try to change it, just look at it. Maybe you haven't realized that you had this self-image for the longest time, and this is the first day that you realize, oh, I have this file in my mind, this folder, so to speak, that I didn't even know existed. That primitive part of our brain triggers fight or flight response when there's uncomfortable emotion or image in our mind's eye or in our body. It triggers a fight or flight response similar to the one that would be triggered if a lion is attacking you. It doesn't make any sense, but that primitive part of the brain is designed to protect you at all costs. It's just an overly protective reaction that unfortunately and paradoxically ends up sabotaging our growth. So the solution is, it's important to remind yourself that there's no real danger. It's just a feeling. There's no real danger in experiencing any emotions. There's no real danger in observing our thoughts or the images that we have in our mind. It's actually quite the opposite. When we observe what is happening on the inside, we bring awareness, we bring light, we bring wisdom and understanding, which subsequently bring a relief, comfort, and relaxation. Regardless what emotions you may have attached towards that self-image, just feel those emotions. Kind of like allow them without resistance. You see, resistance is what creates more suffering, but emotions in of themselves don't create suffering, even if they are less desirable. If it's fear, you can allow that fear. If it's shame, you can just allow that shame. And emotions begin to dissolve just as you sit with them in stillness, in observation, in curiosity, no judgment. You can even give yourself a sense of love and nourishment and safety and protection to remind yourself that it's okay to be human. It's okay to have a human experience. It's all right to feel all kinds of emotions because we are in this body, and this body has those emotions anyway. And it makes no sense to suppress them, to resist them, or to think certain emotions are bad. I shouldn't feel fear. I shouldn't feel anger. Just because you're feeling fear doesn't mean you're hurting anyone. Just because you're feeling anger doesn't mean you're hurting anyone. It's just a feeling. Just by doing so, you may realize a large percentage of improvement in the right direction. You can do so for a few more minutes if you would like to. You can kind of create like a short meditation of just being with what is on the inside. And that is part of the process of transformation and alchemizing what's on the inside. Subsequently, what's on the outside follows. Now, like I said in the beginning, if and only if you feel comfortable exploring more. It's very important to feel totally safe and comfortable when you're exploring your inner world. With the increased awareness, you naturally feel more lightness and comfortability. You can also journal about it, and I speak of specific journaling techniques in other videos. Maybe I'll include some in the description below. Another effective way to upgrade the programming of your mind is to reparent yourself. While noticing these emotions and while noticing these thoughts and programs, you can start to kindly reparent yourself. Give yourself good communication, good wisdom, good self-talk, kindness, compassion. Advocate for yourself. Convince yourself, convince that programming why it is faulty and why it needs to change with logic, with science. If you would like to explore more this reparenting method, drop me a comment, let me know, and maybe I'll make a more expanded video on it. You can also begin to change the details of that self-image. If you see it in black and white, what would happen if you change it to color? Would it feel better or would it feel less than better? If it doesn't feel too good, you can change it back to how it feels better. What happens if you add background music to it? Does it make it better? Maybe your favorite song, or maybe put in the background your favorite quote. Does it make it feel better? These are all great ways to create new neural pathways for thoughts to go through, for your brain to create reactions, spontaneous behavior, and thoughts and decisions that are more resourceful to you. The truth that I believe is, because our mind is a supercomputer, once we uncover the details of the programmed applications in our mind, the coding of these beliefs, self-images, and memories, we have the power to transform them, upgrade them, so that our mind functions in a more easy way, in a more pleasurable way. Awareness is the beginning of change. And with each increased level of awareness comes an even more profound change in our lives. First, increase desirable emotions about how we feel about ourselves, how we build bonds with our loved ones, and how we manage our professional relationships as well. I hope you found this video helpful and inspiring. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure to join my free mini course to learn the foundations for a healthy voice. Leave a comment, let me know what you think if you have any questions that I can potentially answer. With that, stay well, much love. I'll see you in the next video.